Debt recycling and SMSF setup for an LRBA purchase. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how we helped the client set up an SMSF and also looked at putting them in place to debt recycle. So I'm Victor Doko, financial planner at CFV Services. So a bit about the clients. The clients are in their 50s. They have income of about $130,000 and $208,000. And you can see the expenses there. They have assets of the primary house, and also they have a large amount of content. Their mortgage is about $990,000, and the super combined is about $420,000. So their main goal was to be able to purchase the dream home when they do retire, and that value, the future value of the home is about 3.6. At current date, I think it was about 2.5. And they also wanted to be able to spend about $4,000 per week because they really wanted to enjoy the retirement. They feel they have worked very hard, and that's the goal. Okay, so when we help clients, we really focus on what the goal is and help them put in the financial steps to get to that goal. So for such goals, because the current value of the house is about $1.6 million. So to be able to get a $3.6 million house in the future, there's some strategies we need to put in that are, fairly high risk. Risk here is just chance of loss, but as time goes on, that chance of loss actually reduces. Okay. So one of that strategy was to set up an SMSF and purchase a property in there using an LRBA. So I've done other videos about LRBA before now, but the main benefit of an SMSF is you have the ability to borrow, okay? And with that ability to borrow, you can then invest in assets you would not have been able to invest in if you did not set up an SMSF. So that's the key benefit. Generally, when you borrow, you actually maximize the amount of return you get over the long term, as you would see with this client. So part of the key strategy to get them to that goal was to set up an SMSF and then get a property within that. So in terms of an SMSF as well, what happens as well, what we do as financial advisors is to ensure you have enough liquidity in there. We don't want a situation where you need to put in a lot more money than expected because you need to make renovations in the house, okay? Because once you set up an SMSF, it's difficult to borrow additional funds to make renovations to the house. You actually need to make that as a contribution. So generally, we want to ensure there's enough liquidity in there. We also want to ensure you're also invested in other assets. We don't want the portfolio to be too concentrated in just property, so we set up an investment account for them as well. Okay. And with this, you definitely need a lot of professionals. These clients there did not have the time, they did not have the knowledge, and they really just wanted to get to their goal. And that's why they approached myself. So I worked closely with an accountant, worked closely with a mortgage broker, and for some issues, worked with a lawyer as well to help them get to that goal or to help them set up the SMSF. So it's very key to work with relevant professionals and know, each value the one brings, because, an accountant gives you different value than a financial planner. One of the goals as well is just ensuring that they are protecting your human capital. If you think about this, one of them is about on $208,000. And if they can work for 10 years, just using simple maths, that's about $2 million that they've lost in value. So we want to be able to protect that. So touch wood, hopefully not. If something unfortunate was to happen, there's still some income coming in to sustain them, pay off the mortgage, still get them as close as they can to their goal. Obviously, we will revisit everything if something happens. So that's where things like income protection come in, life insurance, total and permanent disability, and trauma as well. So what we do is we help them with 3 key things there. So the first one is just finding out what amounts they need to be covered for, okay? And based on that amount, what structure should we put in place? And finally, what insurers should we choose to ensure they are getting the most value? Due to different professions, different insurers offer different premiums, and also due to different level of risk and the certain insurer is willing to take, there you might get a better term with that insurer. The good thing about the types of protection we look at as well is that, it's underwritten. So what that means is they ask you questions before you actually start paying the premiums, while as your default covers in your superannuation accounts and non-comprehensive covers, they don't really ask you questions until it's time for claim, which is not ideal. Okay, one other good strategy we put in, and it's actually one of my favorite strategies, is called debt recycling. Okay, and this is when you have some equity in your house, and we know that your house will grow at the rate it's meant to grow, regardless of if you pay your mortgage or not. Okay, so what we want to do essentially is convert your non-deductible debt to deductible debt. What we end up doing by just that is saving you lots of the interest you would have paid. Because if you think about a simple mortgage, and I'll just use $1 million as an example, you end up paying the bank about $2 million in interest. So if we can actually capture some of that and retain that as value for you, that's key. And that's even excluding the benefit of actually investing the money. Okay. So with debt recycling, the key benefit there is you actually invested in other assets other than your property. And what that means is you can actually get more returns, and you're using debt as well, which is you are gearing that position. So, just roughly as well, if you are meant to earn 10% on a certain portfolio and you borrow 50% of that, you can increase that return to, anything from about 12.5 to about 17.5, depending on your marginal tax rate. Okay. So the main financial steps in this is, you have the mortgage ready for your house. You set up another mortgage, which you draw as an investment. You invest the funds, and, end of every year, you then decide, okay, should you pay down the principal place of residence loan and then top up the other loan. So that way you're just moving the debt from the non-deductible to the deductible one. That way you can actually save some interest. What happens with that over time is that you actually pay off the mortgage a little bit quicker. And, as I said, with all those other benefits, it then adds to your total wealth. Okay, so that really addresses goal 4 and 5 for them. And just some unidentified needs, which we discussed as well, is just cash flow management. So ensuring that, you know where your money is going. I think we can always spend as much as we can, or rather there's no limits to spending. So what that entails is, just trying to live within your means is an ideal way. And sometimes having different buckets where you put your money works very efficiently in that regard. We also talked about estate planning. So generally, when we talk about estate planning, the different things talk about who should your assets go to, and when you talk about an SMSF, who should those assets go to if one of you wasn't around? Should it fully go to one partner? Should it fully go to a dependent or a child of a partner? Those are things we need to discuss and then put down on a document and ensure we have that written out. Okay. With an SMSF as well, you have a certain level of flexibility because you are the trustee. Unlike your normal superannuation accounts where you're not the trustee, you don't get the flexibility to make decisions if there was a non-binding nomination. So for these clients, what we're going to do is put a non-binding nomination in place, and that way the trustee actually has discretion as to how they should distribute the funds, obviously in honor of whatever the partner wanted. But with that as well, what then happens is that the trustee can make more tax effective decisions, because if there was a binding debt nomination saying I want this money to go to X, it might not be passed to them in a tax effective way, whereas now the trustee has a little bit more room for that. And it's also important to look at assets outside SUP as well. So put a will in place on all those assets as well, and also put a power of attorney. When I always speak to couples, I always say, look, I know both of you are coming to see me, but if one of you couldn't make decisions, I can't just listen to the able spouse and say, okay, well, I know you were a couple. I know you always make decisions. I need a power of attorney to be able to act on that. And in terms of intangible benefits, so financial advice is hard to understand for some people, so because they're like, well, what are you actually giving me? And that can be broken down into three aspects. One is actually navigating the right advice for you and how we should actually structure that for you. That's one aspect, because each person's situation is a little bit different. Like these people, they have a certain house they want to buy and they know what that is, and we're working towards that, while other people may not. So navigating the right advice for you, that's one intangible of the advice. The other part is actually giving you the advice, saying, okay, putting this on a document, saying this is what you should do. A, B, C, D will help you get to where you want to go. And one of the other crucial parts as well is actually implementing the advice. Okay, so when you implement the advice, so many things can go wrong. And obviously, we as professionals have done this over several years, so we can actually navigate that to ensure things go as planned for you. So those are the three key areas and intangibles that people should understand is the value of advice. And look, the other intangibles that actually are a benefit to the client, just getting professional expertise. You're working with several professionals that have done this before. So they are guiding you to ensure you get to your goal, financial satisfaction. These clients over the last few weeks have been emailing me just saying, thanks for all the hard work. We wouldn't have been able to do this. We didn't even know we needed to do that in terms of setting up an SMSF, so that's the financial satisfaction they get by knowing that, someone is taking care of this for them so they can sleep well at night. And the last one just talks about the expertise as well of working with different professionals. So, these are two good strategies we help clients put in place. And this actually helps clients once you have a, 10 plus years to actually get to your financial goals. So ideal clients for us are people that don't have the knowledge and, don't have the time to do this. And if you have the knowledge but no time, or, have the time but no knowledge, we can actually still help you with this. So please ask any questions. Let us know if we can help. And obviously, as a professional, we do this daily. So looking forward to your comments, and please follow and like for more educational content.